For some of the city's most vulnerable, this area under the bridge is where they call home, a place to sleep at night. But most recently, some of the people living here have received notices from the city to vacate these illegal campsites. But advocates are calling on the mayor to cancel these evictions.
Less than a week ago, this was the spot where a number of homeless people had sought shelter underneath the on-ramp to the Gardner Expressway before a fire actually happened here. It's one of hundreds of spots throughout the entire city because, despite best efforts, there's no place else for these people to go.
They are some of the most vulnerable in the city of Toronto, and during this pandemic, they are put at further risk due to the fact that they are experiencing homelessness. But earlier this morning, the city of Toronto moved in to clear some encampments, calling them a safety hazard.
It's hard for people to see what's going on because all they see is tents and dirty people, and they don't really see like the people that are hurting.
This is the scene of a big homeless encampment cleanup by Toronto City staff today. 7 garbage trucks full of box springs, mattresses, trash, and a shocking amount of used dirty syringes. City crews spent hours combing through the debris, locating 2 bins full of needles.
I'm an addict, so society says this is where we belong, and so be it.
What do you say?
Well, I say they're not leaving us much choice.
Just give me 10, 15 minutes to get what my belongings, my coat, oh my God, they wouldn't even let me near it. They slashed it all up and tore it and put it and let the big truck come. Get out of the way, the truck's gonna run you over.
Most Torontonians know that the city's homeless population has been hit particularly hard by COVID-19, with outbreaks of the virus within the shelter system and more people experiencing homelessness thanks to loss of income and for other reasons. The result is that we are seeing more and more tent encampments in parks across the city, like this one here in Moss Park, and advocates say there is every reason to believe they'll continue to grow.
I called the shelter and said, I need a place to stay. I'm homeless right now.
A heartbreaking dilemma for mother Jenny Sedaris. The house she had been renting for 10 years for $1,000 a month was sold to a new owner. Unable to find another affordable place to live, she's been staying in a Scarborough shelter with her 4 daughters for the past month and a half.
Just living day by day at the shelter, in between the trailer and the shelter, and there's no steps anymore. I'm desperate.
Nobody deserves to be evicted from their homes, not the least during the time of this pandemic.
My question is, why didn't I get any notice? When did this become okay to evict someone without a notice, a young woman, an immigrant woman, on the street? When did we become cruel like this?
With the pandemic raging, millions continue to suffer economically as well. Meanwhile, congressional lawmakers remain unable to agree on a new multi-billion-dollar COVID relief plan. So in homes across the country, many are fearful that moratoriums meant to protect them from eviction will expire in just weeks, potentially leaving them homeless.
The landlord here has started an eviction process against us when my mom lost her job, her full-time job, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm completely scared and frightened because I don't want to become homeless. I don't want my family to be split up and have to live in a homeless shelter.
Christina Kelly had no problem keeping a roof over her family's head in Omaha until she got laid off from her job last summer when the business closed due to COVID. She hasn't paid rent since August.
There are no options. Right now, the homeless shelters are all closed to new people because the pandemic, obviously, and I don't have a vehicle for me to even sleep in.
Kelly is one of up to 5 million renters across the U.S. who face eviction at the end of this year, when a moratorium imposed by the Centers for Disease Control expires.
Bertrand Cresson is a temporary cleaner, but when the COVID-19 crisis broke out, he was left without work.
I normally work every Saturday, but since the crisis began, I haven't had any work at all.
Donc voilà.
I'm not working at the moment. I have nothing left. We're putting our shame aside, and if our children are hungry, we'll get food for them.
The poorest people have a right to live with dignity, and the government has a pressing obligation to enshrine this right.
我叫 Peter， 今年37歲，本身做飲食同埋清潔嘅。我老細冇生意，咁我哋冇公開就冇收入㗎啦。冇收入自然住屋嗰方面都交唔到租，同埋冇錢食飯。其實都係彷徨咯，冇地方住咯，即係諗緊幾時就會有翻個有瓦遮頭咯。咁嗰陣時一定冇諗過㗎啦，係咪先？一定唔會諗呢樣嘢㗎啦。咁日日有公開。係咪先有預常交租啊，成嗰啲，但係人嘅嘢你估唔到噶嘛。
我每日最擔心嘅嘢都係租，因為你食你可以食好平嘅嘢，食少啲肉，食少啲豬肉，多啲食菜，諸如此類。但問題你租就你係 fix 咗一定要俾嘅。
低下層嘅人係最慘啦，即係差唔多叫做推我哋去懸崖咁滯㗎啦，即係而家都企喺懸崖邊㗎啦。
People are going to die, and there's no need for it. This is a rich society. This is a rich world. This is a rich leaders. And people have a right to housing, and as Doug says, they also have a right to survive.